Have you ever faced the frustrating error of trying to initialize a Firebase app in Python, only to be met with a message saying the app already exists? If that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to tackle this issue head-on. I completely understand how annoying it can be when you're trying to get your project off the ground, only to be stopped by an error message. You're definitely not alone in this. Many developers encounter this issue when working with Firebase. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. One user asked, "How can I check if the default Firebase app is already initialized in Python?" They received an error stating that the default Firebase app already exists. Sound familiar? Let's dive into this together. So, what does this error mean? Essentially, it indicates that the initialized app function has been called more than once without a unique name for each app. This can happen if you're trying to set up multiple Firebase apps in your project. Let's break down how to check if the app is already initialized. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a quick tip on how to manage multiple Firebase apps effectively. To check if the default Firebase app is already initialized in Python, the user can utilize the Firebase admin SDK. First, they should import the necessary module from Firebase. Next, the user should check if the default app is already initialized. This can be done by using a simple conditional statement to verify the existence of the default app. If the default app is not initialized, the user can proceed to initialize it using their service account credentials. This is essential for accessing Firebase services. Finally, the user should ensure that they handle any exceptions that may arise during the initialization process. This will help in debugging any issues. Fun fact, Firebase was originally developed by a startup that was acquired by Google in 2014. It's amazing how far it has come since then. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. One alternative approach to check if a Firebase app is already initialized in Python is to use the Firebase admin module. First, you can check if the default app is already in the apps dictionary. If it is, you can proceed with your logic. For named apps, check if your specific app name is not in the apps dictionary before initializing it with your credentials and configuration. Let's take a look at another answer from another user. One alternative approach to check if a Firebase app is already initialized in Python is to use a try and accept block. First, attempt to get the existing app. If a value error occurs, it means the app isn't initialized yet. In that case, you can initialize the app with your credentials. Let's take a look at an answer from another user. This user suggests a method for checking if the default Firebase app is already initialized in Python. They recommend using exception handling to manage this. If the app is not initialized, it will call the initialize app function with the appropriate credentials. They provide two functions, one for initializing with a service account and another using a GCP project ID. Both functions follow the same pattern of checking for initialization before proceeding. Now, let's shift our focus to a different response. An alternative approach shared by a user involves checking if the Firebase app is already initialized by using default credentials. They suggest using a simple conditional statement to verify if there are any initialized apps. If none exist, you can initialize the app with the default credentials and your project ID. Now, let's dive into a different answer from another user. One user faced a similar issue with Firebase initialization. They realized they had initialized the app twice in their Python file, which caused the error. To resolve this, they simply removed one of the app initializations. Here's that quick tip I promised. Always check if your app is initialized before calling initialize app. This will save you from unnecessary errors and keep your code clean. And there you have it. You now know how to check if your Firebase app is initialized in Python. Remember, checking for initialization can save you a lot of headaches. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and don't miss our next video on Firebase best practices.